What is up, guys? I hope we are all keeping well out there. I hope we are all keeping safe. Today we have something a little bit different to test out, something you can fit in your pocket. So let's get straight into it and run the intro. Okay, so the lovely people at Huawei have sent across this P40 Pro Plus for me to test out for the next 2 weeks. I basically just wanted to go through all of the key features that really stood out to me, as well as break down the specs that this phone comes with when it comes to photo and video, because they are incredible. So the P40 Pro Plus was released back in March in the last leg of the P40 lineup. They started off with the P40 and the P40 Pro, and then they released the P40 Pro Plus after that. So the P series has always been Huawei's standout photography phone, and with some of the specifications that this phone is packing, it definitely lives up to that series, and then it excels on those as well. So let's start off by going through all the specifications when it comes to photo and video that this phone has. So the dimensions of the P40 Pro Plus is 158.2 by 72.6 by 9mm, coming in at 226 grams. It has a glass front as well as a ceramic back and frame. It's IP68 dust and waterproof up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. You have the option for singular nano SIM or dual hybrid nano SIM. It's rocking a OLED HDR10 90Hz screen. The screen is coming in at 6.5 inches. You're getting a full HD display with 1200 by 2640 pixels. You have a EMUI 10 operating system, which is similar to the Android 10 operating system. Their optical Kirin 990 5G processor. You get 8GB of RAM, up to 512GB of storage. As well as that, you can also have up to 256GB of expandable memory. A 4200 mAh battery with a 40-watt supercharge, both wire and wireless. It also supports fast 27-watt reverse charging. So looking at the camera specs, you are getting a Leica Penta camera, which includes 50 megapixel f1.9 23mm wide, one 1.28 inch sensor, which I think is just under 1 inch. You're also getting a 8 megapixel 240mm periscope telephoto lens, an 8 megapixel 80mm telephoto lens, a 40 megapixel ultra wide lens that can open up to f1.8. It's also got time of flight 3D depth as well as Leica optics. So the video specs you're getting with this phone are 4K at 30 and 60 frames per second. And for full HD and standard HD, so that is 1080 and 720p, you're also getting the same frame rates as you would at 4K. On the front punch hole camera, also known as the selfie camera, you're also getting a 32 megapixel f2.2 26mm wide, one 1.28 of an inch sensor and lens, infrared time of flight 3D depth sensor, infrared time of flight biometric sensor, so that will be used for unlocking the phone. And with this selfie camera, you're also getting the same video specs as you would on the rear camera. You're not getting a headphone jack with this phone, but you are getting a standard loudspeaker that this phone comes with. And lastly, the all-important price is £1,299. Now, after reading all these specs out to you, I'm sure you can understand why this was Huawei's flagship phone up until they brought out the Mate 40. It was also classed as one of the best camera phone systems out there on the market at that time. So normally with the P series, the Huawei tend to go with a standard P whatever it may be, so in this case P40, and then they'll go for a Pro model also. But they have actually taken a leaf out of Samsung's book here, and they have gone for a standard model, a premium model, and then an ultra premium model. So that's going to give you all of the things in the phones beforehand, as well as some extra camera specs that I'm sure you'll appreciate. So for me, what stands out is that 50 megapixel camera on the rear. And not only is it 50 megapixels, but it also shoots RAW. So I'm sure many photographers out there can appreciate how handy this can be now, having RAW capabilities in a mobile phone. It's definitely got me a lot more interested into mobile phone photography, because I now have more areas to play around with and more options and information to use when it comes to editing phone photos in, let's say, Lightroom. Now, this RAW capability is very impressive, but I should mention that it does get affected depending on what zoom you are at. So it will change depending on whether or not you are in a telephoto setting or a wide setting. It will allow you to do it in the standard setup. When it comes to just opening up the camera app, you can select RAW. You'll come across this when you go into the Pro mode and you want to do different types of zooms, and it will still say 50 megapixels, but it will get rid of the little RAW icon. So not only is it interesting for us photographers out there, but it is definitely one to look out for your everyday consumer, because I'm sure, as a lot of you will know, having 50 megapixels is definitely going to help you now if you want to crop into that image or zoom into what image you have taken. Because obviously not all of us line our horizons correctly, we don't frame the image correctly or compose the image correctly. I'm guilty of it, especially if I'm on the go and I just want to get a quick snap. You don't pay attention to stuff like that. But having 50 megapixels, and if you do know how to use RAW, then you have more options there now available to you in order to get the image that you have been looking for when you went to go and take that photo. So having RAW definitely puts this phone into more of a pro end of phone cameras, but it is definitely going to be making waves as the years go on, having RAW in cameras, and it's definitely going to be developed upon. You're going to get better options as you go through the years, and I'm sure Huawei will be leading that as they go on. So just as an example, so you can get to see some of these RAW files in action, I'll overlay some shots that I have taken in RAW format and at the different focal lengths. You can see how I've played around with the highlights, the shadows, and how I've cropped it and how far I've cropped in. I will be including these photos into a file on Dropbox for you to all test out. So having a phone with these sorts of specs is definitely making me want to explore more into the mobile photography area. Obviously it's not going to be doing my professional jobs because I need nice high-end cameras for that, so I can get the best possible outcome on various screens and everything else that comes with it when it comes to producing professional video and photo work. But it's definitely making big impacts out there. Having a phone that can do this in the camera world, it's definitely going to be just making people think twice when it comes to mobile phone photography. And I think Huawei have always been known for that, have always been known for their exceptional cameras. If you even think back just a few years ago to how far they've come now with mobile phone cameras, it is incredible, and it gets me really excited to see what they'll bring out in the future. So obviously, along with RAW and 50 megapixels, you are getting one of the largest phone sensors out there at the moment, and that's something that is going to come in massively handy when it comes to low light, just having better overall image clarity and more information to play with in post. The image size is 1.28 of an inch. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it when it comes to 1/1.28, but that is coming in at just under an inch, and that is almost up there with a lot of premium compacts that have a 1-inch sensor. My drone has a 1-inch sensor, so that is only a little bit smaller than what some of these cameras can actually do. So within that Leica Penta camera that this phone is supporting, one of those lenses is a 10 times optical zoom. Now this is the same methods that they use in the P30, and that is a prism mechanism where they use that up to 5 times within the P30, but now they are doing that up to 10 times. And that is using the same method, just adding in more mirrors to reflect that light and to extend that zoom. And with this zoom, you are getting a 240mm full frame equivalent. Optical zoom in phone cameras is also another recent thing that has come about, and Huawei have found an incredible way of doing this within their prism mechanism. We're all used to just using the digital zoom where it just crops in on those pixels and spreads them all out and makes it look like it's been taken with a potato. And now with optical zoom, you can beat all that and you won't lose any quality. Now this phone, having that optical zoom, is setting it aside from all of the other pro phone cameras out there. It's one of the first of its kind, and I can't wait to see how Huawei develop on from this. I can imagine you can only get better from here. I can't wait to see. I've had real great fun using it already and just managing to retain that pixel count and just to retain all the details, everything like that. It's been incredible at what it has been able to do, and you'll be able to see that within the photos that I'm going to share with you. So as well as the optical zoom, there's got to be some digital zoom involved as well, and you're getting that up to 100 times. So obviously this isn't going to be amazing quality, and to me it's a little bit gimmicky, but it's more for people that just want to test it out and see how far you can push the boundaries of phone cameras. It will look extremely grainy and it won't be the best image you've seen. It's not going to be really something you can print out that big, but having 100 times zoom is quite impressive nonetheless. So when it comes to zoom, this phone has definitely got you covered, both digital and optical. So quite a new thing that stands out to me in this phone that I don't see other phone manufacturers doing as much is the front selfie camera actually has autofocus as well as IR, which allows you to get that portrait mode in selfie mode. So you don't often see that in many other phones, and for you people that like the portrait mode, I'm not a massive fan of portrait mode as a whole when it comes to phone cameras, but you can now do that for any, I don't know, Instagram stories, Instagram posts, posting on Facebook, just taking photos with friends, and you've got a nice blurry background. Adds a bit more professionalism to your photo when it's been taken on a mobile. You tend to find with a lot of phone cameras, they can't detect edges of the objects that you want to be in focus, but this does that very, very well with the IR camera in there, as well as the autofocus and everything else that it chucks into those cameras. It's producing a selfie mode that you'll be happy with. Oh, I should say portrait mode that you'll be happy with. So you're getting a fairly standard selection of camera modes within the camera app. There's quite a lot to choose from, and I did get to test these out whilst I went outdoors with this phone. So as you can see, I'm showing you a couple of the features up on the screen here. It does come with a nice variety. There's a fair few to choose from, and you are quite spoiled for choice when it comes to photo modes. You're getting things like super slow-mo, which is up to 7,600 frames per second, which is just mental. I tried that out in the snow, so I got the snowflakes falling at those frame rates, and it was quite impressive to look at. So as well as the super slow-mo and slow-mo in general, you are getting things like panorama, time-lapse, HDR, as well as a few others within the camera app. They're extremely accessible. I'd say the way the camera app is laid out is very, very nice. I found it extremely easy to use, easy to navigate through. I do find with Huawei phones that they do provide a nice ease of use when it comes to using the camera and the phone as a whole. I like the layout of it. There are quite a few to choose from, some new ones that I haven't seen before in other phones, so it is always nice to see that being implemented as and when a new phone gets brought out. So I definitely think that would be something that you enjoy playing around with when you get this phone. So along with those extra photo options, you are also getting your pro video and photo modes for people like me that do like to have a little bit extra creative control when it comes to their images on mobile phone photography, because where I can, even if it is on smaller sensors and lesser quality devices, I do like to have the option to control shutter speed, aperture, focus, white balance, everything like that. It's really easy to use throughout those whole menu layouts if you know your way around the pro options. So another little feature that I actually quite like about this device that isn't to do with the camera is the curved edges, and that is the two sides as well as the top and bottom. And this is one of the first phones that I saw out there that did that. And Huawei uses a swipe up to return to home feature, just like on your iPhones. And I found it really handy actually having that curved bit at the bottom. It was a lot nicer to use. It just felt ergonomically nicer. I can't pronounce that word very well. So yeah, having the curved top and bottom was a great choice by Huawei, I'd say. So obviously with all of these camera specs chucked inside of this phone, as well as just the internals and the processors and computing and everything like that, you can imagine it's not the lightest phone that you've ever come across. It's coming in at about 226 grams, which is near some of the heaviest iPhones out there as well for all of you iPhone users. Now for me, coming in at 226 grams, it makes the phone a little bit bulky, and I was actually a bit surprised at how chunky it was when I held it. Obviously it still is quite a thin phone, but it is a little bit bigger than others that I have used. And what it gains in weight, it is actually making up for in those photo and video specs. So I don't think it's really going to be something you're going to worry too much about. It's also making up in the build quality of this device. Yes, it is, in my opinion, a little bit more bulkier and a little bit more heavier than other phones that I've used, but you are getting extremely good build quality out of this thing. You are getting a ceramic frame, you're getting a ceramic back, a nice glass front. All these things come together to make it a really nice feeling device. You're not that worried. If you don't have a case on it, obviously I advise you to get a case, because I don't know about you, but I like to keep my phones nice and pristine and clean. But having this phone, and if you feel like you're going to drop it, I wouldn't be too worried, because it is that good of a build quality. I feel like it can withstand most drops, most standard like everyday drops that you do whilst using your phone, and if you're a little bit clumsy like me. One of the smallest issues I really had with the phone, and when it comes to the phone camera, is where the Leica Pentacamera actually sticks out a little bit around the outer border of the camera frame. Obviously you can get cases that will make it nice and flush, but I like my phone cameras to come flush already with the body. It does make you a little bit worried that you'll scratch it or catch it on things and just take little chips out of the glass, but it would take quite some doing to do that, and obviously just be careful with your phone. So for me, there is only one big drawback to this device, and that is something I'm sure a lot of you are aware about, and that is the Huawei Store and the access to no Google Play features or app. Huawei have implemented their own store where they have their own apps, and it is quite a limited number of apps at the moment because it is fairly new. You can't get access to things like YouTube, Gmail, or Instagram. Unfortunately, this isn't something they have on their store at the moment. If they do have it, but it's not an app that you can actually download, they tend to take you to a web link where you can access the website or a slightly more web-based version of that app. It does okay when it comes to stuff like YouTube, but there isn't an app for Instagram, so for me, that's why it draws it back. I am a massive Instagram user, as you all know, and a lot of people out there do use Instagram and want all the other Google Play services that you get with a standard Android device. So this could be a major deciding factor for a lot of consumers out there. If you can't get the web link to the app or website that you want, then it will just say we can't get this app at the moment. Whether that means they'll get it in the future, I'm not entirely sure about. It would be good to know whether or not they will be bringing out all the apps that you'd see on Google Play services onto their Huawei store, because then that would make this phone complete, in my opinion. For a lot of people here in the UK and US, you are going to be wanting those Google Play services that you get on a standard Android. I'm really glad I get to test out this phone, because unfortunately it wouldn't be something I'd be able to buy at the moment, because I do need access to Instagram on the go. I need the full function of the app, so that would be one of the drawbacks for me. It'd be interesting to hear what you think of this change from the Google Play Store to the Huawei Store. I'd love to know your thoughts, so leave them down in the comments below. So when it comes to the camera, the design, the internals, this phone massively excels, and it is really, really something to consider if you are after a mobile phone photography beast. Huawei have done an incredible job with that. However, if you want your Google Play services, it's going to have you stumped. It's got me stumped. So I hope it's been fairly in-depth for you. I know it's been mainly photo and video based, but that is what I wanted to focus on when it came to this phone, because that is what I'm about, and that's obviously what I find most interesting and what I find a lot of my followers and subscribers would find interesting. So I hope you enjoyed it. So this has been my first mobile phone review or mobile phone camera review. I'm sorry if I've missed anything out. If I have, do let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. As always, leave a comment on any questions that you have, and I'll try my best to get back to you. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, and if you want to see more of these kind of videos, don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification button. And until next time everyone, don't forget to take care and stay safe, adventure further and explore some more. See ya.